What are you doing with Bitcoin right now? Are you buying or selling?
Whenever I have some spare cash, we buy more Bitcoin. Yeah, we're taking a very, very long view toward this. The network's only getting better. Adoption is improving. Very constructive regulation is coming out of DC. And the Lightning Network is moving us closer to Satoshi's promise of letting everybody in the world trade with each other at the speed of light in a fair and equitable fashion.
So you're buying?
Yeah, I'll be buying at the top forever. Right? The maximalists believe Bitcoin's an instrument of economic empowerment. I'm not trying to time in the market.
Right.
I just want to be in it.
The price of Bitcoin is going to go up to $10 million coin. The difference between 2% inflation or 2% deflection per year and 0% deflection or 0% inflation is the difference between an average life expectancy of 70 and immortality. What's the difference between perfect money and imperfect money? Perfect money is economic immortality. Imperfect money is we all have a short, brutal life. The Chinese will embrace Bitcoin. Name a company that's still in existence from 100 years ago off the top of your head where the stock is worth more today in real terms than it was then. What if I told you I could make your company live forever? When you have a need to know, when you have a crisis, if your country is in crisis, if your company is in crisis, if your family is in crisis, when the bank freezes and fails and the currency crashes and you have a business or you have a life and you're in that culture, you have a need to know, your eyes are open, now you adopt Bitcoin. Trump has discovered Bitcoin. Trump has a need to know. Mike, I don't remember. When did we first meet? And you'll say, well, the first time we met, you kicked me out and told me I was a moron. And they're like, oh, I don't remember that at all. Did I do that? I'm sorry I did that. The difference between me swinging a baseball bat at your head while you're looking that way versus me doing this with a baseball bat saying, you should duck. I'm about to swing it, right? One of them is interesting. Maybe it's entertaining. And the other is brutal. Fire is scary. People run from the fire. Don't wave the fire in your sister's face. When Apple encounters Bitcoin, I think they may look at it and think, well, wait a minute, Bitcoin, multi-signature, cloud, what if we actually make the Apple Watch a signing device and combine it with the iPhone and combine it with the third signing device on a laptop, and then we do something with the cloud? Maybe the future biggest bank in the world is Apple Computer, and Apple's going to give us easy-to-use, safe multi-sig that 6-year-olds can figure out. How's Bitcoin going to scale? You're going to see a growth in layer 2s, a growth in layer 3s. You're going to see the transactions on layer 1 get bigger. The average transaction size is going to go to 2,000, then 20,000, then 200,000, then 2 million, then 20 million. Do you want the billion people in China to be rich? And do you want to be rich while the Chinese government still has a bunch of laws that you may or may not agree with? Or do you want the people in China to be poor and you to be poor while the Chinese government has a set of laws that you don't agree with? Do you think that you're so great, you're Superman, that you can just go and topple the entire government by barking on Twitter?
How did Bitcoin change you?
When we bought Bitcoin, we bought 250 million. No public company had ever bought any. People thought we were crazy. So then we bought another 175 million. People thought we were crazy. Then we bought 600 million more. People said, you can't stand on it. It'll destroy you. It's like standing on a bridge made of steel. And I concluded, it's the perfect engineered material to solve our problem, but people are living in fear. And how are we going to get them to not be fearful? And I was reminded of Andrew Carnegie's example. It's like, build the bridge, go stand out in the middle of the bridge. You build an airplane, fly the airplane. Show people that it's not going to break. That's what MicroStrategy did. We said, well, if it's good for 100 million, it's good for $1 billion. If it's good for $1 billion, we might as well go for $4 billion. Right? And at some point, people will realize that they have more to fear by not embracing this technology than by embracing it. And I think that over time, a lot of that capital will flow into Bitcoin because there's no other place for it to flow. They lose faith in other crypto networks and they lose faith in other cryptocurrencies. They're not going to go back to the fiat system. I think that'll be the next wave. It'll be a melt up of Bitcoin and a meltdown of crypto. And then the wave after that will be an emergence of Bitcoin as the highest form of property. So I would think it goes from 10 trillion to 100 trillion as people start to think of it as digital property.
What does that mean in terms of price per coin?
At 500,000, right, that's a $10 trillion asset. At 5 million, that's a $100 trillion asset.
So you think it crosses $1 million, it can go even higher?
Yeah, I think it keeps going up forever. I mean, there's a reason it can go to 10 million coin. Like if you roll the clock back to 2007, Steve Jobs invents the iPhone. And, people thought, oh, it's a toy. By 2009, the iPhone's got an app store. And if you understood anything about software, the iOS is a new operating system, and it's going to be its own ecosystem, at least as important as the web. And it's going to spawn an entire new generation of applications, right? And the mobile wave is responsible for what, like $5 trillion? 5 to 10 trillion dollars of wealth over the next decade. Can you imagine someone sitting around saying, oh, I get mobile device technology, and you're trying to time the market in Apple stock in 2011? Like you're buying and selling Apple stock in 2011? You want to shake. I'm like, are you out of your mind? I'm trading Facebook stock back and forth between $8 a share and $4 a share and $12 a share. And you just want to do this. Like, do you not understand that one day every single person on the planet is going to have one of these things in their pocket and it's going to go up by a factor of 100? And you're trying to trade Apple stock between $1.25 and $1.17 and bragging about how you bought it at $1.25 and sold it at $2.11. And have you figured out the consequences of being short the share if it goes up by $100? Like the amount that, are you out of your mind? Because, by the way, I spent 30 years in the business and I obsess over this every single frickin' minute of the day. And I wrote a book on it, right? I wrote the book. I predicted the future. I made $500 million investing in these things, right? And I started, and I put a small amount of capital in. And let me tell you one thing, John, I can't time the market. I have no freaking clue. And if you just want Bitcoin to be successful, when you hear the Bank of Shanghai is rolling out a Bitcoin ETF, custody of the Bank of Shanghai, you would say, that's great. That's going to give access to Bitcoin to 1.5 billion people in China. Okay, and they're going to buy a bunch of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is going to go up to $10 million coin. So here's the question. Do you want the billion people in China to be rich, and do you want to be rich while the Chinese government still has a bunch of laws that you may or may not agree with? Or do you want the people in China to be poor and you to be poor while the Chinese government has a set of laws that you don't agree with?
Pretty easy.
Or do you think that you're so great, you're Superman, that you can just go and topple the entire government by barking on Twitter? It's I just don't think, right, that you're going to topple, an entire sovereign nation with your ideology. So Bitcoin has accumulated the most physical power in terms of electricity, the most computer power in terms of hash power. It's accumulated the most economic power. $700-800 billion of real money has been invested in it. It's got the highest market cap, worth 1.4 trillion, and it's accumulated the most political power. Hundreds of millions of people who are passionate about defending it. And so, how do you know it's not working? Well, if someone came along and launched something that was more popular with intelligent people, then I guess it wouldn't be working. But of course, Bitcoin's been growing first 200% a year, then 100% a year. Right now, it's still growing 40 to 50% a year. So it's a monetary virus that's spreading, and it's extracting the capital from all other capital assets, right? So the proof that Bitcoin is winning is the performance of Bitcoin is 5x the performance of the S&P index. And Bitcoin is outperforming gold, outperforming the S&P, outperforming every individual stock, outperforming bonds, outperforming cash, outperforming real estate. What do you see? You see intelligent people with money voting with their money, and what they're doing is they're selling the weak assets, buying the strong asset. When we had extra cash on our balance sheet, our first strategy was to buy with the cash. Then we had some cash we'd earmarked for a Dutch auction to buy back stock. And when we had excess cash afterwards, we took the excess cash, we bought Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. Then the stock exploded in value, and some of our employees exercised stock options, and we had cash from that. We took that cash, we bought Bitcoin. Nice. Then we sold our software, and we made cash in the software business, and we had extra at the end of the year, so we bought Bitcoin. Then we had an opportunity to sell a convertible bond to the market, and the market wanted to buy a bigger one, and we upsized it. We had a lot of cash, so we bought Bitcoin. Then we went back to the market and did another bond offering because Bitcoin price went through the all-time high, and we were able to raise $1 billion for 0% interest. Mm-hmm. And why wouldn't you? If someone wanted to give you $1 billion for free for 6 years, would you take the money? Then Bitcoin price went down, and we had not taken out any kind of mortgage on the company. And so we went and we mortgaged the company with a $500 million senior secured note. We pledged the cash flows of the business in the future. That was about a 6%, 6.25%. And we bought Bitcoin with that. And then the price of Bitcoin went up again, and the stock skyrocketed. And so we thought we'll go do an equity offering, and we did an at-the-market equity offering. We sold about $1 billion worth of stock. Mm-hmm. And we sold it at a premium to the underlying Bitcoin, and so we sold the stock, bought the Bitcoin. You know, along the way, the price of this of Bitcoin went down, and then it went up again, and eventually we went back to the market. We sold a bit more stock, and then we sold another convertible bond, and then another one. And we have bought Bitcoin every quarter. So the real short answer is we just buy Bitcoin every quarter, and we buy it with whatever cash, equity, or debt we feel is most appropriate.
If you found this video valuable, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more content, and share your thoughts in the comments below.